Broadcasting live worldwide.
Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
All right, welcome to my event. It's an event hosted by me, Elkanah, or you can call me Frank. It's by Sincere Poetics and Literary Phrases. Also co-hosting Sincere Frankly Hop. Yeah. And yours truly, Elkanah. Yeah, Frank Malcolm Kembury. It's of Bath City, that is, in Somerset. And it's a Facebook event. The duration of the event was supposed to last an hour. I've had a reach of over 600 people interested in it with one response. The tickets are free, or rather it's free to view. Most of the audience is women within my age group from 35 to 44. And it's
check us out
to anyone
on Facebook.
Off Facebook, and also available as a podcast via Sincere WEBCASTS. Bath and North East Somerset poetry and literary heritage comes from the likes of short stories and poetry competitions in Bath's historic venues and record office. First things first, Mary Shelley, who married a poet called Percy Shelley. That's back in December of 1816. And performance poetry was on the cards here in Bath from Bath Poetry Cafe and the Walcott State Choir. That's back in 1914 to 1918. You had poets like William Wordsworth and Samuel Taylor Coleridge. They both had a Somerset connection. All this is part of the free live media event hosted by myself in celebration of my hometown city of Bath. The Bath Live venue at James Street West in Bath, Somerset is not exactly a venue of sorts. It's a starting point to some of the pre-recorded media that will be scheduled to feature during this free live media event.
Follow us on Facebook, Twitter,
of the media
and
will also
Instagram.
be devoted to what poetry means. To me, as a local rap artist making hip-hop, I'm a Frankly rapper. I make Sincere Frankly Hop. I have a proprietary right to control my team brand, indie web label, Sincere UK, plus the brand itself, which is a team brand, collective artists, and our values and principles. Sincere, plus independently create and publish my own poetry. My Sincere Poetic Phrases is up to all of us to slow the spread of COVID-19. Yes, everyone, it's time to stay safe. Be safe, everyone, including young and healthy people. You should all avoid large gatherings during this time. Stay up to date with the public health guidelines from www.nhs.uk. The event itself is based here at home. It's a bit child friendly. I'll try to tone it down. I'm volunteering in the schedule to bring you my Sincere Poetics and Literary Phrases. Bath Live itself brings you all the latest news and information from the wonderful city of Bath in Somerset, my lovers. So, with a short discussion in view, let's just get to that.
Check this out.
Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
As I did defer this recent aspiration back a few months back, just last year, to create online media events here at Facebook, due to disruptive data breach, I had to rearrange a new schedule for quite a few events, this one included. I've still been thinking about all the reckless damage limitations and company liabilities. There's issues with Amazon, etc. sacking staff over ICO data breaches and encouraging law enforcement to arrest and prosecute. My iPhone was hacked. The IP has been damaged by cyber criminals committing terrorism. The whole Tor thing and the dark web does my head in. Due to issues surrounding all the action fraud, ICO and Ofcom casework. In part, it was postponed. Now it's up and running again. My assets were breached, along with my profile, including my devices. Casework is dealing with it. Poetry tutorial for Bath and North East Somerset libraries during the lockdown and their competitions. I'm just going to let this play. I won't let all of it play. You should get the point. So I'm just going to the YouTube now.
Check us out on Facebook.
Hi, I'm Kasha, and I'm going to run you through a quick few tips on writing poetry. Firstly, there's a misconception that poetry is hard because it has a lot of rules. In reality, poetry comes in many shapes and sizes, and no one poem is like any other. For example, in prose you have to maintain good grammar and punctuation, but in poetry you can make these things work for you. Essentially, don't be afraid of poetry. It's prose for rebels. Someone once described poetry to me as the anarchist of literature. While there are some forms of poetry that ask you to rhyme here or use a certain amount of lines there, you can sometimes break these rules on purpose to create a specific effect. As long as you have a good reason to, you can do this as well. But if you prefer, there is always free verse, a form of poetry with no rules at all. You can find a pretty impressive list of poetry forms online with a quick Google search. The basic thing you need to know is structure, rhythm and rhyme, things like that, they're all just tools in your belt of techniques. Think about your message. Does a particular form of poetry help you convey it? For example, a villanelle with its repetitive lines would be a good form of poetry for a poem about forgetfulness. However, a haiku about the biggest, hugest, shiniest apple ever showing up in Leeds doesn't have enough space in it to impress the magnitude of what you're trying to say. Write something true. At its core, poetry is a form of communication. In writing a poem, you should wish to communicate something to your reader. Your reader wants to relate to your poem. They want to understand it on a personal level. Like in prose, poetry uses descriptive language to evoke reactions from your reader. It may seem counterintuitive, but very specific imagery will be more relatable than vague ones. Think about your favourite memory. Which of your senses do you most remember? When writing a poem, we often talk about sight and our emotional reactions to it. That's because sight can be the easiest sense to communicate, but experiences are rarely based on just one sense. So think about how to incorporate more of these senses into your work if possible. There's lots of things about language that we do instinctively to elicit a certain response. That is essentially what poetic techniques like these are. For example, you might write about a white dove if you want your reader to think about peace. Or you might use a lot of similar sounds if you want to give your poem a sense of musicality. Or you might use a line break to force your reader to pause if that's necessary. Use whichever techniques will help you convey your poem's meaning to your reader. But remember, you don't need technique or rhyme or structure to write a good poem. They are just there to help you say what you're trying to say in as precise a way as possible. But throwing in as many techniques as possible isn't going to create the best poem. What I'm trying to say is, think about which specific techniques will help you now, and the rest you can play with another day. Finally, good luck in the competition. And if you'd like to learn more, follow us on social media for more information about our free upcoming creative writing class.